During the reign of Malcolm IV, between 1153 and 1165, a Motte-and-Bailey Castle was built at the top of Kingseat Hill in Clackmannan. These castles were defensive structures, but the main reason for their construction was that they were quick to erect and could accommodate the king and his entourage within weeks. It was also around this time the Royal Forest of Clackmannan was established with its deer parks for the pleasure of the king hunting during his stays. According to a contemporary description, the castle of Clackmannan was constructed of wattle and clay, on top of a man-made mound of earth, which was flattened to house it. Timber was used to build a square structure, complete with wooden towers and lookouts. Within the enclosed wooden fenced courtyard would have been the hall, kitchen, accommodation, stables and workshops. Living at the castle would have been local people who would do the menial work, along with serfs, those who were tied to their lord's estate in the old feudal system, usually working in agriculture. It's known that this original castle was not made from stone and had no battlements or crenellations. Around the castle and its courtyard was the traditional deep ditch, making it difficult for attackers to invade the castle itself. Once a year, St. Bartholomew's Fair took place close to the castle. It was an important day in the calendar due to all the buying and selling of goods. Although it's known Malcolm stayed at the castle, so did William the Lion on several occasions. William was a grandson of David and became heir presumptive following the coronation of his older brother, Malcolm IV. When Malcolm died in 1165, aged 24, William was crowned King of Scotland. He was described as strong and powerfully built, with a mass of red hair, and was noted for being obstinate. Sometime between 1190 and 1199, William granted Roger of Haddon the lands of Frandy in Glendevon in Perthshire, as noted in the charter, which was signed apud Clackmannan. This charter states, William, King of Scots, makes known that he has granted to Roger de Haddon the whole of Frandy in Glendevon by its right marches, and with all its pertinence to be held by him of the king and his heirs for the service of a knight. He also warrants the said land to him and his heirs as that which he has given to him for his service. In 1195, William fell ill at the castle of Clackmannan, and a crisis arose. Believing he was on his deathbed, he stated that Otto, the third son of Henry the Lion, Duke of Saxony, and his wife Matilda of England, should succeed him and become King of Scots. Otto was the nephew of Richard I, who tried to broker a deal for him with William. However, Patrick, first Earl of Dunbar, was against the idea of Otto taking William's eldest child, Margaret, as his queen. Dunbar worked closely with the king, being a signatory on many charters issued by William and accompanying him on his travels. Moreover, he was married to an illegitimate daughter of William's, Ada, so this may have had an influence in his stance regarding Otto. As for Margaret, she went on to marry Hubert de Burgh in 1221, dying in 1259. As fate would have it, though, the king made a full recovery and the crisis was averted. His problem when he was ill was that he only had legitimate daughters to succeed him, Margaret, as previously mentioned, and Isabella. However, shortly afterwards, his wife gave birth to his son, who later became Alexander II. The couple went on to have one more child, Marjorie, in 1200. On 9th November 1204, William was visiting Clackmannan Castle and issued a charter that day, witnessed by his Chancellor, Archdeacon, Chaplain, Constable and Butler. Following his death in December 1214, he was buried at Arbroath Abbey and was the longest-serving king in Scotland until the Union of 1707. After his son Alexander II was crowned, the king visited Clackmannan Castle in 1231, where he issued a charter granting the lands of Culbracht in Fife to the Abbey of Balmerino. Sometime before 1264, alterations were made to the castle, with stone being used instead of wood and clay, and at the time it was still a royal residence, even containing a brewery. This is the earliest surviving part of Clackmannan Tower that we see today. During the Wars of Independence, the castle fell into English hands, but eventually was restored to Scotland. Although its use by royalty petered out, on 21st April 1360, John of Anand and William of Norton were there to collect taxes from the local area from Sir John Menteith. By this time, the castle was out of the hands of the Scottish kings, with David II selling it to the Bruce family on 9th December 1359. As for the royal forest at Clackmannan, it's now a shadow of its former glory. There is some dispute as to when the royal forest was established, but it was first mentioned by Edward I of England, or Edward Longshanks, in 1305. It became important, not only at local level, but nationally. Within the forest were 4 internal deer parks, and this attracted the ancient kings of Scotland to hunt there. To the east of the castle of Clackmannan, the forest stretched over large swathes of the countryside. The forest would have been rich in a variety of trees and wildlife, such as deer and wild boar, and it's known that oaks grew there. Not only did the forest provide a good hunting ground for the royal entourage, but also wood for building and heat for cooking. It was in abundant supply, and good use was made of this natural resource. By a charter granted by the king, David II, the monks from Holyrood in Edinburgh had the right of cutting the wood from the forest for building and other purposes, as well as being able to allow their pigs to graze within its boundaries. In the 15th century, feuding took place between James III and his brother Alexander Stuart, Duke of Albany. Albany was envious of his older brother and tried to challenge the king for the throne. He was captured in 1479 and held at Edinburgh Castle, however escaped and made his way to Dunbar Castle. The king resolved to lay siege to Dunbar, and for this he required the resources of Clackmannan Forest. Foresters were commanded to cut the trees down and shape them so that they could be used for the necessary measures against the East Lothian castle. Albany escaped to the French court. By the 17th century, the forest was no longer in royal hands, but instead had been handed over to the Earls of Mar, and the barony of Alloway, Alloa, was handed over to James Crichton in 1649. By the end of 1650, the forest, as well as a large chunk of land, was bought by William Murray, who paid John Erskine over £24,500. One of the most famous men to hunt in the Royal Forest was Robert I, or Robert Bruce. He stayed at Clackmannan on several occasions, and it was while out hunting, so the local legend goes, that he lost his glove near or at a clach, hence the name Clackmannan. However, he arrived long after Clackmannan got its name. If you enjoyed this episode of Scotland's History, please like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for watching.